Hello and welcome to this week's video. My name is Anuska Taylor. So great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. And thank you to all my new subscribers as well. And if you haven't yet subscribed, it's never too late. So please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and also like, comment and share my videos. It really does make a huge difference. And I'm incredibly grateful for all your support. So on today's video, I'm going to be talking about quick tips and why they don't work for the voice. And I would argue they don't work in general if you actually want to create change. And we live in a society now where people do have very short attention spans. They don't want to necessarily put that much time into anything. They just want a quick result, a quick tip to get them through something. And no more so than with the voice. And it just doesn't work like that. It really doesn't. And if you really want to create lasting change, you have to be willing to put the time in. But I'm going to talk a little bit more today about why that's the case, because it's probably not what you want to hear, I'm sure. So you're hoping that I'm probably going to give you a quick tip in this video. I'm giving you a quick tip to tell you that quick tips don't work. So let's talk about the main reasons that I see that it really doesn't work. So remembering when we're dealing with the voice, we're dealing with both a physical instrument, but also we are an emotional, spiritual being. So it is a mind, body, spirit instrument, meaning not only have you got to create new muscle memory pathways, and there are over 100 muscles involved in speech. It is mind-blowing. It's amazing that anyone speaks at all, to be honest, when I actually think about it, because we're dealing with three subsystems with speech. We've got respiration, phonation, and resonation. So resonation being sort of the articulation, jaw, the tongue, the lips, the facial muscles. When we talk about phonation, we're talking about the laryngeal muscles, the muscles within the larynx itself. And then, of course, respiration is the breath and the complexity of breathing, which is its own specialist subject for a reason. So we've got those three subsystems have to become coordinated. They have to sing from the same hymn sheet, pardon the pun. So there's a lot of new neuromuscular patterns that have to be developed. This doesn't happen overnight. And they say, and I say they, the powers that be, the scientists, say it takes about 2 months to create a new habit and for it to become more embodied. Now, obviously, that depends on the person and how much time they're putting in and how committed they are. But if you're putting in the time, it takes about 2 months. And this is why my coaching program is 2 months long. I used to do it for a month and I found that it wasn't really long enough for people. You're just starting to get into it and then the program was over. So in recent months, I've made it a commitment of a minimum of 2 months for this reason, because I know it takes 2 months to really start to embody a new habit, not just intellectually, no, I need to do this, but you actually do it as a kind of default. As I say, obviously you've got to do the practice and, I can't do this for you, but if you're willing to put the time in, you can create massive change in 2 months. So that's number one. So really just this idea that there's a lot of coordination of over 100 muscles involved in speaking, and all of that's got to come together. We've got to create new neuromuscular patterns, which doesn't happen overnight. And as I say, it takes about 2 months, roughly, depending on what you're doing and how committed you are. So number two is about embodiment. Now, as I mentioned, the voice is more than a physical instrument. It is a physical instrument, but it's also an emotional, psychological, spiritual instrument. So we cannot separate our spiritual, emotional selves from our voice. And when we try and do that, that's when we don't really get the results. So we might pound the pavement in terms of the physical vocal exercises. But if we don't embody emotionally what we need to embody, you're not going to create lasting change, or you're just going to hit a wall. You're just going to hit a plateau. And what I mean by this is the nervous system has to really accept a new way of being, a new emotional way of being in the world. And so if you've always spoken very quietly, your voice has always been very weak. For example, not because there's anything wrong with your voice, just because psychologically you've pulled your voice back, you're going to have a hard time allowing that more powerful voice to come through. It is not going to happen after a quick tip or a couple of quick tips. And I say this all the time because ultimately the mind is driving the voice. The mind is driving the muscles that drive the voice. So if unconsciously you don't really want to be heard, or you have a fear of being heard, those muscles are not going to work in the way you want. They're just going to clamp down. And you're going to wonder why your voice is not coming out or not powerful, or you're not able to sustain it. That's the other thing as well. You might be able to get the voice out temporarily, but then you just go back. So you've got to not only do the physical side of it, but you've also got to embody it. At the deepest level, there's got to be an emotional shift. The nervous system has got to accept a new way of being, and that will not happen with a quick tip. I often use the analogy of going to the gym because it's very, very similar. And again, just working out in the gym is only going to take you so far. If you have a fear of people looking at you, for example, the chances are you may not want to lose weight because you don't want to draw attention to yourself. So there is always a reason why we do what we do. It's just often it's very unconscious and we don't know, and we think it's just happening to us. But when we can really start to explore those layers, we can start to see, I pull my voice back because I don't really want to be heard. Or I'm not allowing myself to lose weight because I don't really want to have attention. I don't want people to look at my body. So if I can cover it in clothes and no one can see me, then that makes me feel more comfortable, even if consciously you want to lose weight, or consciously you want to have a bigger, more powerful voice. So this is the emotional piece, and it's huge. And a quick tip is not going to give you that. From a more practical perspective, number 3 is quick tips are, generally speaking, general in nature. You know, they are usually in social media posts, very general advice, or blogs, or do this, this, and this, and then your voice will sound amazing. It's very general. It obviously is not tailored to the individual. We all use our voice differently. We all have different conditioning. We all have different fears and habits and limitations and conclusions we've made about our voice. It can't possibly incorporate all of that. So the information you get is very, very general, usually a little bit wishy-washy. And actually, before I did this video, I just thought, just for fun, I would Google how to find your most powerful speaking voice online. And I thought this was going to be really interesting because I haven't actually done this in a very long time. And what I found really interesting, mostly, first and foremost, was none of the advice was about the voice. None of the advice was about the voice. There was nothing about what to do with your voice. The most common advice was to practice. The second advice was to command the room, to stand confidently, but there was actually no advice about the voice at all. Now, when I did find some advice about the voice, again, very, very broad, very general, and it was really about projecting. This was one of the big pieces of advice that I did see, the more sort of general advice, which was to take a big, deep breath before you start speaking. And that will help your voice to project. Now, there is some truth to that in the sense that we do want to breathe deeper and we do want to be more intentional with our breath, but it's not actually very helpful advice because it's not actually true. We don't want to take a big, deep breath. We want to take a more conscious, deep breath, but not a big, deep breath. So again, I totally get the intention behind this kind of post, but actually when you try and apply that, and you read that article and you think, okay, I'm going to now, next time I do a presentation, I'm going to take a big deep breath. You're just going to jam up your voice. It's really not going to help you at all. So again, this advice is well-meaning, it's very general, but it's actually not very helpful. And when you try and apply it, it's probably not going to work because, as I say, if I'm working with a client on their breath and helping them to ground more, access a deeper breath pattern, I never would say to someone, take a big deep breath. It would be, actually, you don't need that much breath. It's more about where you're breathing from, that you're dropping into the body, that it's slow, that it's quiet, and that it's cyclical. And we're not holding our breath. That's actually more important than just take a big deep breath. But I just wanted to use that to illustrate there is a lot of well-meaning, very general actually unhelpful quick tips out there which don't really help you. So if you've taken anything away from today's video, it's that quick tips don't work. And again, I say this all the time, but if you're serious about working on your voice, you have to be willing to invest both your time and your money. Trying to do it on the cheap, trying to cobble things together, a little bit here, a free course here, a quick YouTube video here, it's not going to really change anything. You almost have to make that commitment. I'm serious about this. I want to change this, and throw yourself all in, because it's a physical, emotional, and spiritual journey. You cannot just work on the physical, and you certainly can't just do the odd thing, quick tip, before you go into a meeting. Now, that's not to say that they have no value, but if you're serious about it and you want to create lasting change, it's really a waste of time. So if you are serious about this, this is something that you know you're ready to face, and you want to reclaim your true, powerful voice, and you're willing to do this deep work, please click below. You can schedule a 30-minute voice discovery call, and we can talk more about your voice. I can give you some feedback, some insight into what I'm hearing, and then I can share with you how I can support you moving forward. There is absolutely no pressure in this call. You would get enormous value from the call in its own right, but ultimately I'm there to sort of answer questions and help you understand what's going on in your voice. Now, if you want an actual coaching session to see how I would actually work with you, you can also book that below. It's a Reclaim Your Voice 1-hour session. All the links are below. And that would be a very practical, when I say practical, I mean in every sense, physically, emotionally, etc., real sort of look at your voice, and we'd actually start to sort of work on your voice. It's a recorded session, so you can refer back to it. But if you have any questions, feel free to comment below, or you can send me a message through my website. If you're ready to go deeper, I would love to support you. Thank you so much, and I will see you next week on my video.